what? What are you insinuating over there? I can hear, okay?
Sky, clouds.
All right. It's 4:02, and what
Showtime.
better way to start the show than to talk about all the exciting things we've just learned already about Florida. So,
all right, guys, welcome to Boroughs and Burbs. It's our real estate conversation about New York City.
And New York suburbs, New Jersey, Long Island, Westchester County, and Connecticut.
Today is episode 16. It is the destination show. We are featuring Los Angeles and Miami, and we have two brokers, top brokers in their respective markets. Our first guest is Gary Gold from LA, who is mostly known for selling the Playboy mansion for $100 million, which he eclipsed after that by selling the Chartwell estate for $150 million.
And we have the lovely Techrin Hijazi from Miami, fresh off of both sides of the $10 million Star Island sale and her $14 million penthouse sale. Welcome, Tishreen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thanks.
We are so excited to have you, and we are so out of our depth hanging out with Miami and LA because, as I mentioned to you earlier, Miami and Los Angeles are fantasy places. They're not real to the most of the viewers on this call, right? We just, we're in New York, we're in Connecticut, and we watch realtors on TV every night. We turn on TLC and we turn on Bravo and we watch realtors, and that's like entertainment. So the only glimpse most of us get of the LA market and the Miami market is what we get on cable TV. And you said, well, why don't you tell us? Is it true? Is that what it's really like?
It is, and then some. I think that the closest thing to United States is Miami, and everything that happens in Miami is a possibility. And that's one of the things that I do love about Miami. The answer is never no, it's how can we make this happen? And I like that type of culture. So it is everything that you see, and there's a lot behind the scenes and stuff like that. What specifically do you want to know?
Is everybody beautiful driving a fast car with way too much money?
Everyone is beautiful. Everyone is beautiful, even in their souls. And everyone drives a nice car, or if not, they have Uber. I'll be honest with you, most people have Uber. So you have nice cars and you have the Uber, and people want to be sexy in Miami because of the heat. So you want to wear as less clothes as possible. So you want to wear the spaghetti strap dresses. You want to wear loose clothes. So working out is very important for most people.
All right, Gary. LA, is it real what we see on TV, or where you just kind of zip in the Ferrari from $100 million estate to the next and dial a couple key people and make it look easy? Is that what it's really like out there in LA?
Well, there's a lot of, the people you see on that show are real people. The whole thing is very much fabricated. The whole process, things don't happen that quickly. But it's amazing how much money is here. New York's no different than that. I'm just absolutely baffled how much money people have. But those shows are pretty much fabricated versions. They're reenactments of some, bizarre deals that happen. They're not real, those deals. Now, the people, it's funny, those people, and I'm friends with a lot of them, they have kind of taken on the characters they are in the show, and it's that part is true. Literally become that. But yeah.
That's all sensationalism. Let's talk business. What's
Okay,
going
good.
on broadly? What's going on in your markets? Like New York has suffered, but it's turning right now. Really, really turning. Connecticut exploded during the pandemic. So many people went to Miami. What happened? Let's start in LA. What happened in LA, and what's going on for like the past 14 months? And just broadly, we'll get a little micro. John's going to want to, like a surgeon, get right in there.
Literally late March, when the pandemic hit, like anyone else, I was pretty freaked out. and I thought the world was, I thought maybe the world's coming to an end. And all of a sudden I started thinking, I go, last week we had a housing shortage and the economy was the best it's been like pretty much in history. And there's unemployment rates are the lowest they've ever been. Interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. So I started just doing I did some statistics. I go, we have the lowest interest rates literally in 40 years. We have the highest prices in 10 years. Prices have been going up for 10 or 11 years. And interest rate and inventory is way down. There's almost no inventory. How could this affect us? And I remember I went on Brad Emmons' show and I said, we're going to be fine. And then people started taking their house on the market. So they kind of started constraining it even more. I go, this is going to turn around and it's going to be strong. Now, what I didn't anticipate is houses became much more important than they were the day before. So on top of it, the market took off and things are doing well. Now, a lot of people are leaving Los Angeles. That's definitely happening. But a lot of people are coming to Los Angeles as well. We have a huge housing shortage, and in the places I sell, there's a huge demand for it, and people are just moving altogether. So our market is just what?
Is there a secondary house market there? Like here,
sure. Oh, yeah.
People say now, in order to live in New York, you got to have two places. You got to have a place, in the city, and you got to have a place somewhere else outside the city.
No, not as much as you, but like I do a lot of business in Malibu. People have houses in Malibu. A lot of people have houses in the desert. People will have houses in a ski area. They'll, Hawaii. So yeah, there's definitely people have other houses, but in New York, it's necessary. In LA, it's not necessary. It's, it's great year round, but our market is as strong as it's ever been. So,
do you have any metrics on that? Like, is it, I know it's very general, but is it generally up 10%? Is it?
Well, I looked at like the high end sales for the last 6 years, and last year and this year. Last year was just an epic year, and this year virtually the same. It started out strong, then got weak, and ended up real strong. So the 60 million plus sales, the 20 million plus sales, it's real similar as it was last year. And this year started out really, really strong. I'm getting multiple offers. I put something on the market, I got 23 offers. Another one, 3 offers. So
price point.
That's not everything. Those happen to be lower price points, like in the couple $1 million range. I have something for 75, and I've got something for 100, and I've got another one for 10. What? Yeah, pretty much.
Showing off now.
Unapologetically. And those, not necessarily going to get multiple offers on those. But if something is really, really well priced, I have something for 12 right now, and I haven't even hit the market, and I've got interested in offers and action. And this is on some isolated street. I don't know how people even found it yet. And market's strong, and people are moving. People want bigger, smaller, different. And I also noticed people making decisions way quicker. It's a great time to be in real estate. I've also noticed that our marketing expenses have gone way down since COVID. There's less, and the ability to communicate with people is off the charts. We can just be on a Zoom call and not even have to go there. So
I have a question for Tishreen that'll come back to you, which is, I have a perception. We have a perception down here that when New Yorkers during the COVID were leaving and going to Florida, and there's a number of reasons for that. There's tax reasons, there's COVID reasons. So there's a relationship between New York and Florida relationship. And I'm wondering if Tishreen is seeing that. And I'm wondering what is the equivalent out in LA, because we're hearing about LA celebrities heading to Texas. And I'm wondering, is Texas your Miami? So first, Tishreen, do you see the same relationship between New York and basically Miami and Palm Beach have become a suburb of New York?
Definitely. Well, there's always been a lot of synergy between New York and Miami, but now even more, and Palm Beach as well. Like all the art galleries are moving to Palm Beach, to Worth Avenue. They've closed in Chelsea and they're now in Palm Beach. And then we have celebrities that have been moving to Miami. In fact, just I think 2 weeks ago, Cindy Crawford just closed on North Bay Road, and she bought on the beach. So, and there's a lot of different celebrities that buy under different, LLCs, so it's hard to find out. But we do have a lot of the celebrities, and a lot of the New Yorkers want to live in Miami. And they first say they want to buy, but then after they start looking, they usually say, well, now I want to rent. So they have been doing that. So they rent and then they buy, but they definitely want to take advantage of the tax situation. I even know people who have like burner phones because they want to be able to have part of the 181 days, saying that they live in Florida to save taxes. So then it's definitely something that we have been seeing, and now we're seeing even more, especially the nannies. The nannies cost a lot less here. Schooling costs less here. The cost of living, everything. I feel so sad for a couple of my friends. They've lost their nannies to New Yorkers because they pay double the price. So.
Typical New Yorkers.
I don't even know where to start with that. Burner phones. The first time we learned about burner phones in Miami, it was like Miami Vice, and they were driving for a whole different reason. Now, burner phones for the IRS agent? Oh my God.
Yes.
Go ahead, Gary. Are you losing people to Texas?
Yeah, Joe Rogan. Hey, he's gone. Yeah, so there are people who definitely made the pilgrimage to Texas. Jackson Hole, Wyoming. People like, I think they'll be back, but Jackson Hole, Wyoming, a lot of people are going to. Also, people are getting second houses and they're just taking up residence here, and they're both places. Most people, I don't think, abandon Los Angeles altogether, but and you know what? It's a great opportunity to make, I'm referring business. And if you want a listing appointment and they tell you where they're going, this is a great tip. And I mean, I know people all over the country. You hook them up with the agent in the next area. A, you'll make a referral fee, and B, you're going to get the listing at their house wherever you are. So, because you really went above and beyond. So, yeah, I just had someone move to Sun Valley, Idaho, a little bit of Nevada, Florida. My brother, who's got, these thoughts have crossed a lot of people's mind, whether they should, stay or leave. My brother thought, hey, maybe I should move to Florida. I don't think he's going to. He's got an amazing setup and a great business. But yeah,
I
there's
can
some
help
people
him
moving.
if he's looking for a place in Florida.
Palm Beach.
Maybe, yes. Miami.
So what's happening is, as I said, we have people leaving, but I have people coming here from New York. Lots of people. I have this one development in Malibu, and probably a third of my calls are coming from people from New York.
Now, is it because their jobs are taken there? Are they in media-related businesses and they have to be in LA and New York because that's where their jobs are taking them, or tech?
I don't think so. I think it's because they. I think it's because they want to be here. But maybe I'm not sure. Malibu's interesting. It's kind of like you're not in Los Angeles, but you've got the benefits of the weather and the vibe, but it's its own world. So Malibu, this area, the number of sales doubled from 19 to 20, doubled. We're also seeing that in Montecito. So other people are moving in other parts of California as well. So there's a lot of movement, which we're brokers. That's a great thing to experience one way or another when people are just making moves.
Let's talk about your marketplaces. Like Manhattan is very defined. It's an island. Sure, I can do a couple of deals in Brooklyn and whatever the case may be, but it's very, very defined. And I wanted to ask you, like, how do you define your marketplace? Do you go to Malibu? You said you do. Like Tishreen, do you go up to Palm Beach? How much of your area is your area?
You want me to answer first?
Sure.
So I don't go to Palm Beach. I refer it out. It just, I'll go all the way from Indian Creek, which is saying past North Miami Beach, all the way to Gables Estates. So and from one corner to another, I would say it's about an hour and a half. I don't want to be driving more than an hour and a half. It's not quality of living. So I'm Miami-Dade County. I won't go to Broward. I won't go to Palm Beach. I'd rather refer it and have someone who's an expert take care of that area.
Sure.
Yeah, I always tell people, they go, any advice getting into real estate? I say, I would find a defined area and really focus on it. what my market is high-end real estate, and it's taken me, I mean, I have listings in Pasadena, in Glendale, in Palos Verdes, in Beverly Hills, in Malibu. I've had ones in Montecito, down in San Diego. Now I collaborate with other agents when it's too far to go, but I've sold houses all over the world. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad idea. It's worked out for me and it's made it really interesting. But yeah, some of my I once had this development in Fiji because I wanted to go to Fiji, and I'm sitting there and I remember I once said, why am I selling homes in a really hard place to sell homes where I am, and then I'm like neglecting some business I can do in one of the easiest places in the world to sell homes, because I want to be in Fiji. That was the answer. But yeah, I'm all over the place, and I really know markets all over the place, and I have a feel for what's happening all over the country. And it's, I think it's been helpful because of my clientele. They're all over the place, and that's what I've done, but I don't know if it's a good idea.
How do you both market yourselves so that millionaires, billionaires find you and know that you're at the top of the market? I mean, success begets success.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that if I look to Roberto and I say, how many agents are you competing with? Tens of thousands in a major market. So how do you rise to the very top of the cream and attract those kinds of clients? I know everybody on this call is dying to know, how do you attract those kinds of clients?
Who first?
Whoever's inspired.
Okay, well, I mean, I have a secret: just sell the Playboy mansion. That's all you have to do. Just, and done, end of story. You know what? I've been in this business a long time, and I've had to start over multiple times. The most recent was probably 2009, when I was selling homes in Fiji and Las Vegas. I had these developments all over the place, and that whole development business crashed, and I was just at square one. I had completely neglected my resale business. I had done just a little bit of it. I remember trying to get a $3 million listing, and they said, well, what have you sold lately? And I couldn't show it to them. I had to start all over again. And I remember getting an opportunity. I had done a lot of business with Zillow back then. And when I was doing the developments, and they gave me an opportunity to sell a Ashton Kutcher's house. And I did that. And as a result of that, I gave half my commission away. And we did this design home with Gilt. And I met an architect. And so what happened, basically, I sold that house, and I leveraged the fact that I sold Ashton Kutcher's house. And then I sold a home, I remember, to a couple of people I sold homes to from China. And I leveraged the fact that I'm the guy that are selling people homes from China. And that got me up to about 6 million. And then I had a $10 million home from a guy I knew, and I brought someone else in to just lock in the deal, and I sold that. And then I leveraged the fact that I sold this $10 million home, and it happened to have been to Kim and Kanye. And
if I'm teasing a thread through this, you sell something and then you spend a good deal of time talking about what you just sold. You do
100%.
You are not just a deal maker, but you are a marketer.
Well, I'm promoting proof of concept, so then I got I had sold a $2 million lot that ended up being a $20 million sale. And I leveraged the fact that I sold that. It was like the highest sale in this particular area. And another thing I do is I met an architect during that Gilt design home thing. And I gave him a piece of business, and I told that architect, I got him $1 million job. I said, if you ever have somebody that needs a question answered, I'm not selling them anything. They think they might be overbuilding. Are they building the right thing? What do you think of this area? If you have a client ever has questions, you ever have questions, call me, I'll answer it, just, for fun and for free. And he called me a year later and said, I got a client, he thinks he's spending too much on his house, and will you take a look? I went and looked at that, and we ended up putting on the market, and I ended up doing a bunch of business with him. And he ended up being the managing partner of a private equity firm that owned Playboy. And we talked about the Playboy mansion for another few years. He always asked me questions. At the time, I mean, I was rebuilding my business. I wasn't necessarily the person to get that gig. But I really was working on it for several years, and I had the opportunity to go on the appointment, and he trusted me, and I ended up getting it from a very good presentation. And then when I sold that, I just turned around and leveraged the hell out of that.
So you have to have good deals, you have to market, and you have to have relationships. You've talked the third ingredient that you've been talking about is that you've got people who call you, who trust you, and they are well connected, and you're well connected to them. But I created that. And the key here is everyone on this call, if you are been in the business 5 minutes, everyone gets those opportunities in life. Everyone. They come up. When you have it and you seize it and you make something happen, you've got to then take advantage of the deal. There are people that have sold $70 million homes in Beverly Hills, and you never hear from them again. They didn't seize that opportunity. So not only do you do a deal, take advantage of it. And I've had to reinvent myself business-wise for a multitude of reasons, like 3 times. And that is the formula every single time. But everyone gets those opportunities, and it's just one step at a time. Tishreen, how about you? Hold on. I got you muted. You got to unmute the other. Can you unmute yourself?
I didn't even realize I unmuted myself.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, I'm sure my husband would love to have a mute button on me that he can unmute. Okay, so I can relate and I can't relate because unfortunately, a lot of my deals, my clients handcuff me and they tape my mouth. And what do I mean by that? I just do an amazing deal. It's off market. And then I have to sign all these confidentiality agreements saying that I'm not going to mention anything about the deal. And I'm like, well, we're going to wait for tax law or for some other person to post it on social media. So what happens with a lot of my deals? Other agents find out about it and they post it on social media and I can't. And I have to wait X amount of time until I can speak about it. And they're huge deals because they are very successful, affluent people, and they don't want like their employees to find out, or they don't want the media to find out. So I haven't been able to be that lucky in that sense. The people that I have worked with that I can name drop were like Julio Iglesias. Another way that I got to meet Julio Iglesias and worked with him was through another one of my listings. So my listings are the ones who give me access to the very famous and people that are super wealthy. And then I worked with Dwayne Wade. I had his exclusive listing, but it was the same thing. I met him because I had a listing that he came to see. So unfortunately, I can't spin it like you because I'm limited on what I can do. So then I spin it on the way I call divorce attorneys and I tell them, look, I'm known for confidentiality agreements and I'm able to sell the property like that, but this is my book of business, and I show them my Excel spreadsheet with all my past sales.
Hold on, as an aside, before we continue, can you switch microphones? Because when you're talking, the recording is going to your other computer. So if you could switch if you could turn the microphone on the same computer that has the camera. I want to make sure that your face is on the recording.
I don't know how to do that because I'm looking at the computer because the computer is where I can hear.
We'll mute the computer, unmute the one you're on. Yeah.
Gary.
Yes.
The Playboy Mansion.
I sign NDAs on, or I'm told not to say anything in a lot of deals, but it's just the funniest thing is like when I sold Kim and Kanye, I had to sign 2 NDAs with them. 2, that one wasn't good enough. I actually, on the second one, I go, are you kidding me? And I said, and I didn't represent them, I represented the seller. I said, I'll sign the second one, but they need to sign one for me saying that, stating they'll never tell anyone that I signed theirs. Just busting their chops. But the day after I signed the NDA, they told the world. Playboy Mansion. That was just, in the public eye, period. There was nothing anyone could do. And I don't think the buyers were the first. I signed an NDA, but everyone talked about it. So and also Chartwell estate, I didn't say anything, but, we signed like 19 NDAs. And the day, 5 minutes after recorded, it was being reported. So
Gary, not so much for the Playboy mansion because it's notorious, et cetera. And I would imagine you got, all kinds of different showings on that in some ways. But like, for example, the Chartwell estate, like how many showings did you have on something that's $150 million?
We had 32 legitimate, real, solid showings.
Wow. In over how long a time period?
2 years.
And it was listed at what and sold for what?
We started at 350, over indexed that a little bit. And then it reportedly sold. I don't know for sure, but it reportedly sold like everywhere for 150.
And the Playboy mansion was 200 and sold for 100?
105, yeah.
And how quickly did that happen?
That sold immediately. And then I, spent 3 months negotiating the nuances because, Hugh Hefner got to stay there for the rest of his life. And
right.
It was super complicated. It took 3 months to negotiate. And everyone was rich and wanted it their way and difficult. Actually, but we got it done. It took several months.
Now, when showing that place, was there anything unexpected?
Yeah. The one thing that I just did not expect is not that what you'd think. By the way, all the playmates have been replaced with nurses at that point. So it wasn't that kind of thing, but it was a neat place, obviously. The one that was unexpected, and I never saw this before, is like you'd schedule a showing and they would say, you schedule a showing saying, now are the buyers coming with their own security? We need to know what's happening. So the security guards wanted to know if they had security. So that was a question that had never been asked of me before. So
can we talk about your housing stock in general? I would imagine that the overwhelming majority of your housing stock, like for example, here, 70% of our housing stock is rental. Of that 30%, about 60% of it is co-op. So we're in a situation where, from a financial standpoint, people, these co-ops require that people put 20% down, and in many cases, 25, 30, 50% down. And in some buildings, they don't allow financing whatsoever. And in those particular buildings, they not only do they not allow you to finance and you have to pay cash, they want to see that you have multiples of the value of those apartments in liquid assets after you close. So imagine buying a $10 million apartment, you put 10 million down, they still want to see that you have 20 or 30 million left over in cash, not including property, retirement, or any of that stuff. So we have an ability to also vet people. From your standpoint, and in Miami, Tishreen, like, it's easy for us to say, look, the board requires this. You just want to make sure that you have a certain sense of what their net worth is, et cetera, and you can vet them. And also if they're celebrities, it's a whole different scenario. But how do you go about, like in some of these scenarios with the Chartwell estate or some of the properties that Tishreen is showing in Miami, how do you vet those people? Because they could be anybody.
Right, Tishreen, we got, unmute the mic on the iPad. Nope.
How about now?
Perfect.
There we go.
Yeah?
Yes.
Oh, I hear a lot of echo now.
You have two of them on. You got to turn one off. There we go. I think we're good.
Okay, now can you hear me?
Much better.
Perfect.
Oh, okay. I forgot the question.
Your inventory. How do you vet these?
Yeah.
We have co-op boards.
So when I have for example, when I had the Apogee unit that I sold for 14 million, when I don't know the person who's coming, I ask them just to give me the name of their banker and I have a quick conversation with the banker. Do they have financial means for 17 million? I just need to know yes or no, and a conversation's enough. If they don't give me the name of their banker, then I ask them just to give me a letter with their letterhead of their banker saying that they have the financial means to buy something that's 17 million. If they refuse, then I'm not okay with that. And I say to them that the seller, I have instructions from the seller that I'm only allowed to show qualified buyers. And if they have any resistance, then I don't think they're real. And I've had that many times.
Is that true for condos like the penthouse and for houses, or is it, it's always the same?
Well, since my lowest listing is 3.5, yes, I asked for across the board, houses or condos. Anything that's over 5 million, I'm allowed to, because these are these people's homes. These are not second homes for my sellers. The people buying it are for second homes, but this is where they live. This is where their closet is, where their jewelry is. So yeah, I need to know who's coming to see it. And if they have any resistance, then you're not seeing it.
Is your housing stock is very heavily condo, right?
Right now, we have more inventory in condo, right now, because there's such a shortage in inventory in homes. Like one of the areas called North Bay Road, which you always have a lot of inventory there. There's only 5 properties on the water, on the market, 5. There's another area called Gables Estates, which is where Pharrell lives, where a lot of affluent families live. There's about 172 homes. There's only 8 actives. That's it. So we don't have inventory.
What's a normal year? Eight this year. What was true 2 years ago?
40.
Oh my God.
It's a big
40 down to 8?
Yes.
We thought Connecticut was bad. It sounds much worse in Miami.
Yes.
How's
Finding homes and lots on the water is like finding toilet paper and antibacterial back in April.
how's the inventory in LA, Gary?
It's funny. It's never as high or low as anyone says here. So, yeah, I mean, and inventory varies here. You could have a lot of inventory, but just a lot of stuff from unrealistic buyers who have crappy houses that are sitting on the market. I don't consider that inventory. Like when I go to list a property, I evaluate that property and what are the relevant properties to that property, who would be buying that property, what other properties would they be interested in? And that's how I determine inventory. Like I just listed this home in Malibu. It's new construction near the center of town, which is Cross Creek. So how I determine what kind of inventory that is how many new or newer or really move-in homes in this general area in this general price are available. In that particular case, literally, if you want a new house in that area, that's it in that price range. So, but in general, hey, listen, inventory is on the low side, but if you want to buy a house, there's plenty to look at. So, it's low, but it's not like, so many people are like running to be in Florida right now. So we don't have that, but it's very, very strong.
How do you guys define the luxury market? Like here, I would say it's 5-6 million and up, which would represent about 5% of the inventory. Like what would be what's a luxury purchase in Miami? What's a luxury purchase in LA?
For a home, you're looking at a luxury purchase where the dirt starts at respectively saying 7 million, 8 million. That's just the dirt. So 7, 8 and above.
So 5% of your inventory is above 7 million?
I don't know 5%. I don't know the percentage. But I will tell you that the percentage of inventory in the market for homes right now on the water, I did a search this morning, it was 72 properties on the water. We don't have houses. And I'm calling sellers all the time, homeowners, asking them would they consider selling. And there's no way that I could motivate them to want to sell because where would they move? Prices are 20 to 30% over. So we really do have a lack of inventory, huge lack of inventory.
Where are they going when they are selling? So let's say you find somebody who's had their place for 20, 30 years on the water in Miami, and they're tempted and they're like, okay, I'm ready to sell $10 million. Where do they go? I know that New Yorkers, when they sell out, they go to Florida. Where do Floridians go?
Great question. So the ones that I know that have sold have stayed in Florida. They have just gone up north, like Vero Beach, St. Lucie. They have stayed in Florida just a little bit north, which you get a lot more for your money, just
Right.
5 to 3 hours up north.
John, what's luxury in Connecticut?
Well, I think that, it depends. So in Connecticut, I track 16 different towns. And some of those towns, Norwalk, Stamford, you may have an average price point of $900,000, $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 for a house. But in Greenwich, the most expensive of the 16 markets, the average price is probably $2.8 million. So the luxury in Greenwich is probably over 10. In New Canaan, luxury is probably over 5, or Darien. And in Norwalk, you can buy luxury. You can buy waterfront in the Stamford or Norwalk markets for probably 3, 2 and 3. So luxury, let's say the Gold Coast of Connecticut, you could probably get waterfront for as little as 2.5 and as much as 15 for a nice deep water lot in Darien or Greenwich, where they have low taxes and good schools.
Gary, how about you?
Yes, it's all over the place, but and luxury is a really vague term, which I'd never really thought of.
Of course.
But right. I mean, I know that the very, very high end that I've been tracking, because I look at like how many homes are selling over $60 million. What's happening there? I call that ultra luxury.
Yeah.
There's also, when you look at 30 plus, it's still not just this ginormous amount of sales happening over 30. It's still pretty rarefied air. When you get down to 20, it gets a little more common. 10 to 20 is even more common. And 5 to 10, I mean, the average sale in our office, from 100 million to $1 million is $5 million.
Average.
So average, if you average it all out, it's like, I think our average is about $5 million. But I've sold a couple for 2 million, and then I've sold them for 150. So across the board, I just sold a house last year for 2 million. That was a redo in this really up and coming area. It was a mid-century. You redo that house, I think I consider that an awesome house. And then there's, houses for 10 million that just look depressing to me. So
from what I gather on TV, when I try and do the math on a per foot basis, looks like a lot of the nicer areas in LA are selling for $1,000 a foot. Is that about accurate?
1,000 a foot is starters for something really good. I mean, some houses are, for the really, like if you were in the Sunset Strip, the best, it's the front row, it's a perfect house, it's got an unobstructed view, and it's, newer, that's 3,000. I'm selling, there's ones that, it really has everything going for it, and a and you guys really sell per foot because you're selling, 4 walls for the most part. I mean, especially in New York, Connecticut might be different where you are, but here, hey, listen, if something's sitting on 3 acres on the water, it's different than if you're sitting on the same 10,000. I sold last year a 8,500 foot house on a 7,500 foot lot for 9 million. That same house on 3 acres on the water in Malibu could be $75 million. So that's the big unknown. Square footage is one metric, but we don't sell by square footage.
So here we have a variety of different metrics that we would use. So you really don't have just a straight, with co-ops it's different too. All these old pre-war buildings, you don't really know the square footage. It's kind of the figment of someone's imagination, but there it's a matrix of land, size.
In the very, very high end, the way, I would say really when it's not a uniform area, and most of the areas I sell in are not uniform. When it's not, how I think people really buy homes is that they've got a budget and they go out and look at what's available that suits their needs. And the one that suits their needs the best within their budget, they're going to buy. I just went through one right now that's selling for like 12. There is no comp to demonstrate that price. But I just, what else are you going to buy?
So do
And
you have
where
appraisal
else?
issues?
What, excuse me?
Do you have appraisal issues because of that?
Sometimes, but sometimes, but not often.
A lot of
And
deals
people
cash.
yeah, a lot of deals are cash, and that doesn't come that often. But that's the real metric. I mean, you can't make a house you want, and you can't say it's too much in my mind. The market determines that. So when you've got a certain supply and someone has $10 million to spend, and this is the best house for them, and they can't find anything else that suits their needs, and there's a couple people that want it, it ends up selling. I say that no one is, when people go, who pays $100 million for a house? It's most of those people, I mean, unless they're really educated and they've gone through the process for a long time, they didn't set out saying, I want to spend 100 on a house. They probably, their first whim, maybe 3 years before that is, I'd like to spend 10 million, 20 million on a house. And then they see the market and they go, that's not getting me anything. What does 30 look like? And wow, inventory's tight. And by the time they're done, when they get what they want, it's $100 million. There was a house, the Manor, which sold initially for $86 million. And that buyer came to LA and they were looking for a $3 to $4 million house because that's what they thought they needed to spend. And over a short period of time, they realized that wasn't the case, and they ended up spending $86 million. That's a very extreme circumstance, but that's what it is on the high end. I mean, people have a ton of money and they want to get what they want to get, and then they get educated and they begin to understand the market, then they throw down. But until then, they don't throw down. People aren't just open and go, I'll buy it.
All right, Tishreen, when you've reinvented yourself 3 times like Gary, you probably focus a lot on listing. How about somebody like you who's been in the business and is a rising star? Are you focused on getting listings, or are you finding it easier to get buyers in this market?
So I've been a listing agent, just a listing agent for the last 18 years. I don't like working with buyers.
Okay.
Listing, but I want to just go back to something that Gary said is very interesting here, because in Miami, land here goes, which is really mostly what I work is land and tear downs. So our price points are so different. I thought that we were expensive, but we're not compared to the numbers he was saying. Our land price per square foot goes from $250 all the way up to $700. And 700 is a lot. So that's our price point for price per square foot on land. And then new construction starts about 1,500. And the most that I have seen is 3,200 a foot. That's the highest that we've seen here. So we are actually much more affordable. So that's another reason why I think that so many people are coming to Miami, because you have the weather, you have the year-round water. I used to live in Santa Monica for a year, and you can't go inside the water year-round. Here you can. Even on a cold day, you can go inside the water. So Gary, send me all your clients over here.
I have people wanting to move there. Where Tishreen is, it's very, and where you are, Roberto, it's very quantifiable what things are worth. It's flat. It's often vertical. Even the water is really defined. Where we are, nothing is defined. There's a lot of things are on hills, and there's so many, and it's huge. I mean, Miami's pretty, small area. So is Manhattan. LA is huge, and everything has its own nuances. So, and it was all built, almost everything here was originally subdivided 90 years ago. So it's much harder to.
In New York, I think that two sides of the same street, right, Roberto, are going to trade at very different levels.
Right, but you can still quantify it. It's still easy to quantify. It's a pre-war, it's this, it's that.
There's a lot more data in a much more concentrated, dense place. So that it's easier to differentiate and say, because this is on the 5th floor and that's on the 8th floor, there's that differential. This one faces the front, this one does, there's a lot of metrics from which you can rely on. And some don't work, but you have enough others to kind of quantify it.
I'm a listing agent as well. And when I go on a listing appointment, when people get to price, I'm very transparent. I go, this is what me and the last 4 people did when we came here is we're trying to determine, and I said most agents do this, they try to determine what the price is. And it's not easily quantifiable. And B, they're trying to determine what you think the price is. And they're playing this game. So, but I will go on a lot of listing appointments on the price range I am, and I don't know. I have to really do this. I call it triangulation. If this sold for that and that sold for this, and when I sold the Playboy mansion, there had never been that price, nor Chartwell. And we had to just kind of like do these. If it's almost a thesis, it's not a comp. But the one thing that is for certain, when a ready, willing and able buyer and seller start negotiating, it's amazing how they almost always find what the thing's worth. It really is. It's just a law of nature.
Somebody asked in the chat window about commission structures, New York, LA. And I think that there's a perception out there that the really expensive stuff you were talking about at the $30 million level, the $100 million level, that stuff must get discounted. And I think that, we're not allowed to talk about commissions within our markets, but this call, right, we're all over the country. So I don't think we could call this collusion. I'd say in our market, 19 out of 20 properties are probably based on a 5% commission structure. 95% of everything is trading here at a 5% commission structure. Occasionally, somebody will step out and try a 6 or higher percentage, or occasionally a 4%. But for the most part, Connecticut is working off of a 5% commission structure. Is that changing in LA, New York, or Miami?
New York is probably 6% below $1 million for sure, for the most part. And then as you go up into the 2, 3, 4, 5, it's probably more like 5%, all the way up to you start getting into the teens, and then you might start seeing like at 15 million and above, you might see 4%. But you still randomly, you'll see a $25 million listing at 6%.
Okay.
Usually a sign that it's overpriced.
Yeah.
How about Miami? Any pressure on commissions in Miami? A lot of competition.
I've seen, so I have a $5.9 million listing and I got an 8% on it. I'm paying 5% to the buyer's agent and then 3% to myself. So I think it's a case by case scenario. Now
that's an anomaly, right? That's a complete anomaly. What would be the average?
The average is 6. However, I do see a lot of agents that are motivating the buyer's agent with 4% and 5%. That's where I got that idea from. So it is an anomaly, but it is happening. Are the listing agents taking less? I don't know. That I don't know, but they are incentivizing the buyer's agent with more. I'm seeing that more and more happen in the broker remarks. 4 and 5% is becoming much more popular. And I am actually working right now on a $60+ million deal, but it is only a 2% in the whole entire deal. So I think I don't think there's something that is set in stone, but our office tells us we have to do a full 6% commission. If not, we have to get it overrided. So they're still very strict about it here.
Can we talk about architectural trends a little bit? I mean, Tishreen, like in your market, there's the Porsche building, the Armani, Fendi house, Missoni, Aston Martin. Like, is all that stuff just like of the moment and it'll lose its value? Or are some of those actually really substantial, really well done properties that are going to maintain their value?
Well, I think that they're amazing buildings and the brand name is amazing because like with the Aston Martin, they give a specific line, a car. So they're knowing how to play it up. Like I'm not a big fan of one of the buildings. I don't want to name it, but it is very cool how you can drive your vehicle in the elevator right into your unit. So it markets more maybe a man who's a car collector. So they are doing something like the Armani, I think is a very nicely done building. It's very sleek. very architecturally significant. I think it caters more towards the sophisticated buyer. So I think it's a great idea that they've done this. And now I think Bulgari is coming down. No, Bugatti is actually going to be coming down. So I think it's awesome. And I think that those brand names are going to always retain its value. It's like a watch. My Chanel watch is never going to go down. It's just going to go up in value. So I think the same thing for these buildings.
But do you think are they well constructed? I mean, is the whole project start to finish, like well done?
Besides one that I have in mind, yes, I would say yes. Yes, I do. I think that the developers and their names behind it, they're going to ensure that their name is, I am positive that the developer and the brand name is behind them. They're not going to let it be a flop. So yeah, there's not even one that there's only one that I have in mind, and I'll say it's Porsche. I think Porsche messed up. And I love Porsche. It's the only thing I drive. But the building here itself, they made it very masculine. They made it very dark. But besides that, all the other ones are amazing, amazing. When you come down, we'll take a tour and I'll show it to you.
That's good. Gary, are there any architectural trends that you're seeing, whether it's from a standpoint of full gut renovations and what things people are doing, or new construction, or?
Well, in the past 10 years, people have been going nuts with modern houses, like over the top amenities, and I think that that's run its course to a certain extent, and they're still there and it's still going on. But I think the architecture is getting more refined. This development I have in Malibu, I think he's really onto something. These are 5 homes that are all mid-century modern, but they're 10,000 feet and they have 100-foot pools. I mean, they're very elaborate. The original mid-centuries were more simple, but he's got butterfly, he's butterfly roofs, and he's got spine walls going through it, and nothing on it shines. Everything is very muted. There's another architect named Noah Walker, who first house I sold the first house he designed under his own company, and everything was, again, very organic modern, or a lot of wood, indoor, outdoor, nothing slick, everything very muted. And I'm sure you've heard of Marmol Radziner. That's a little bit like that as well. So I think that trend is going to be happening more. I think Mediterraneans could really, I just sold one for the biggest price in Brentwood last year, a refined version of a Mediterranean. This is a lot more young and hip, not, stodgy. So I think the Mediterraneans just really work in our environment. That I think that could come back. But the ultra slick, there's these ultra slick modern houses that literally on the back wall, there's an expiration date on them. And they just went too far. And I think those are, not going to retain their value as much as some others that are more timeless. So timeless, I think, is, regardless of what it is I think it'll have a big comeback.
What are the price points of those mid-century moderns in Malibu?
They start at 75 and they go to 105. The smallest pool is 98 feet. The largest is 142 feet, like overlooking Malibu. And these pools are unbelievable.
It's a cluster of $75 million homes.
Yep, it's 5 houses all being built at once.
Remember, all those $30 million buyers who can't get in, Tishreen can help you out.
Exactly.
You can hook them up.
Thank you, John.
So this is I would say the most exclusive gated development in the country. And he's building them. My client's building all of them at one time. That takes some huevos.
Roberto, you know what we're seeing a lot in Miami? A lot of square footage for the outdoor terraces and stuff like that. The last 3 homes that I've previewed have so much square footage, and also rooftops. They're doing that a lot, since a lot of families are wanting to do more outdoor living, and the dining room tables even outside. It's very nicely the way that they're doing. I actually really like it, because a lot of the modern houses started looking like offices, like boxes everywhere. But now they're combining the boxes, because the modern is still crazy here. but with a little bit flair of this outdoor terraces and the outdoor summer kitchens. So it's a little bit more inviting and romantic. And homes now are having a lot more amenities. Like before, people used to just want to go to their home, take a shower, get dressed, and leave. Now they're looking for the sauna, the gym, a lot of amenities within the house. So I am starting to see.
Is that because of COVID? Is that just a trend because of COVID?
I'm assuming so. Yes. Yes. People just want all the amenities in their homes. I get phone calls and they're asking me, does it have a spa? I'm like, no, does it have a steam room? No, you can go to the spa for that. No. They want it in their home. So people are starting to live in their houses. So that's why they're creating all these different types of areas within the home. So then I am starting to see more two builders specifically do in Miami.
You know what? That is a big trend. We're seeing home offices. People want more. I just moved, and my new place has 2 offices. Both me and my girlfriend work out of our house. That's great. And I love taking a steam. I hadn't taken one in like 6 months. So the fact that this has a steam was like sold. And so, yeah, a lot of that is definitely happening. People, even, COVID's going to end, but I think people have, to a certain extent, people have changed their mindset about their houses. And if the fecal matter ever hits the oscillating rotary device again, they want to be prepared.
You tell me, I don't know LA at all. What is the difference between Bel Air, Beverly Hills, Brentwood? Like, what's the different flavors of that?
Okay. So there's a 405 freeway. And on one side of it is Brentwood, Pacific Palisades, Santa Monica. And it's definitely more casual, and I would say more concentrated in family. And if you usually live on one side or another, it's hard to make that cross if you're commuting. Not impossible, but hard. And then you've got Bel Air, Beverly Hills, and the Sunset Strip. But so Bel Air and Beverly Hills, I wouldn't say that there's that much different, other than it's more family oriented in Beverly Hills, and in the flats, definitely family oriented. Bel Air is hilly, so less conducive for that. But I mean, people often they're looking at Beverly Hills, they're looking at Bel Air, the Sunset Strip seems to be younger, hipper, not family oriented. But there's people that, we have clients that they consider anything. This is all up and down Sunset Strip. So you could have someone considering one or more of those areas. But the Strip is very like hip, slick, and cool, being in the thick of it. Beverly Hills, Bel Air is more isolated. Especially Bel Air, and then Brentwood, Palisades, Santa Monica seems to be more family.
Did you see the movie Bugsy?
Yeah, that's Beverly Hills.
To the guy's house, he says, I want to offer you this money, but I want you to be happy. And he keeps giving him more money and more money and more money. Where is that house, and what would the ballpark price range of that house be?
Now, the one he died in was in the flats of Beverly Hills. I don't think that's the one. The one you're talking about, I think, is in Santa Monica Canyon. And that's just old now, but yeah, it might trade for 20.
Wow.
If I got the right house. I think it's in Santa Monica Canyon.
Wow.
Some dog disagrees with me.
I love Palisades in Santa Monica. I was so blessed to live there for 1 year, and it's so close to the beach, and it's close to Palisades Park. So that's my favorite part.
Yes, it's pretty cool.
Which is your favorite, Gary?
I just moved to Playa del Rey, which I didn't even know existed, and I'm very, very pumped about it. It's just really neat. I got a great view, and it's a beachy area, and and I think it's up and coming. So I'm digging that right now. But and Malibu, I'm just so impressed with. I just have a lot of business out there right now, and it really is heaven if it works for you.
How much are interest rates affecting both of your markets? It occurs to me that there's a lot of money from the stock market, a lot of cheap money from low interest rates, chasing too little inventory in both of your markets. Tishreen already said she's going door to door knocking and saying, will you sell your house? Gary hasn't said it's gotten to be quite that bad. But it's
hotter in Florida than we are.
there's too much money chasing too little inventory. Is that right? Are we starting to see the beginning of a great period of inflation on these values?
To me, I think so. Yes, I do think so. I think that the interest rates doesn't affect in my price point because they're buying all cash. It doesn't matter to them what interest rates it is, but they're paying 20 to 30% over. Who I think it's more affecting is the middle class because they're taking advantage of the interest rates. But it doesn't make any sense because they're paying over for their homes too. They're going on bidding wars. Like I had my first bidding war with the $14 million closed sale that I had. And it was so uncomfortable. I didn't enjoy having a bidding war because I knew somebody was going to lose. So
I'm wondering, does Miami feel expensive? LA feels expensive right now. And yet New York, I keep hearing week after week, feels like it's on sale, right? Roberto tells me that the super luxury in New York is ready to make a deal, right? Yes. And so why isn't that Miami money coming back to New York? Why isn't that LA money chasing the good deals in New York? What is it about your two markets that continue to set records week after week in both Miami and LA?
Well, they're incredible. I mean, LA is just an incredible place to live. And, it does feel expensive. I mean, I thought the market was going to change a bunch of times and it will correct itself. But fortunately, there's just a defined amount of houses. There's no more land being developed. And, I think there's always opportunity to make a prudent buy. If you make a stupid purchase, I think you're good, you could get tagged. But, the interest rates don't affect you if you are buying a house to live in and you're going to live there for the next 20 years. Eventually, in 20 years, it's going to be worth a lot more. It doesn't really matter at all. If you're buying something on the fly and you need to possibly sell it in a few years, that's when you get your teeth kicked in if your timing's off.
But if I have 20 million bucks and I go out to LA, I can't get anything special. I go down to.
Oh, yes, you do. You get something special for 20 million.
I can't even get into your $75 million club. So I got to go down to Tishreen, and Tishreen is like, I could sell you something, but there's nothing to sell you. So then I go to Roberto, and Roberto's like, you got $20 million? You got your pick in New York. You really do.
100 places.
So that's what I just don't get. I mean, you're making me feel bad that like all I have is $20 million in LA. And you're like, well, you're going to have to cross the freeway, Mr. Engel.
You know what? New York there's a few places that you never count out and they always make a big comeback. New York is one of them. And it's already seeing some resilience. There's no question about it that it'll bounce back big. I mean, it's been troubled many times before. Los Angeles is similar, and so is Las Vegas. Las Vegas isn't going anywhere. And the housing market's a little different because there's just desert forever. But it's just, those places just are resilient and there's something about them that'll always be epic and legendary.
May I?
John, I had you, I'm sorry.
I was just going to interject one thing. Hi, I'm Allison. I'm from LA. I'm from the Beverly Hills area, so I know exactly what you're speaking. I want to say one thing. Both Miami and LA is so warm and so outdoorsy, and I miss it so much, Gary.
Yeah.
I think that's a real appeal for people, especially when you get older. You want to be outside in the warm weather, going to the beach, riding your bike in February. So I think that's a very appealing part of LA and Miami. And another component is I wonder how much is international money, Gary. I know the business, my brother's in the business, and I know a lot of the money is, from that business is buying these incredibly expensive places. But I also think with Miami and LA, maybe there's a more sense of international money coming in there, more so, John, than what's happening in New York now. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out to both of you.
Well, during COVID, it hasn't been the case, and it never has been the case to the extent that people think it is. But hey, listen, when I started in this business, I had virtually no one was coming from another country and buying a house here. Now, if it represents 7 or 8 or 9%, when you add that if you had 9% of new buyers to an area, that has an impact. But it's not like the majority of these houses are not going to foreigners, but it's enough that makes a difference. And it has become much more of an international city like New York. I'm sure Miami is very international. I know that.
John, but if I had your 20 million and I was going to go shopping, I would go and work with Robert, because people have short-term memory. And this happened already to New York that I could remember with 9/11. And everyone said, I would never live in a condo, I would never live in a tall building. And then what happened? The market went right back up. So if you do have 20 million, I would invest it in New York, because I feel that you can get great buys right now in New York.
Are there any great buys in Miami? Can you hook me up? I mean, if I have enough money, right, you can get me something. I mean, you sold this Star Island. What was the Star Island about, right? That was dirt, and you developed it, right?
It was dirt, and the media says 10 million because I had to sign something, but the number isn't that, and I'm not allowed to disclose it. But it was so. It's a 50,000 square foot lot with 209 feet on the water, and it's just dirt. It's just dirt. And fun fact, I sold that, and 6 months later, I gave the person who I sold it to, the owner now, because he's not a seller, he makes sure not to say he's a seller, an offer for 16 million, 21 million, all the way up to 25 million, and he did not take it. Tell me that's not a great return on his investment in less than a year.
You know, interesting in LA, you can, I mean, I think, as I said, I think there's always a great opportunity to make a good deal or a bad deal in a good or bad market. And LA is so, as I said, it's not quantifiable. So if you're patient and smart, I mean, there's people that need to sell. There's houses that just might not get the attention for a myriad of reasons. There's houses tucked away. Different areas are hot and cold at different times. I bought a house 10 years ago in Marina Del Rey. People didn't even know where that was, or didn't think people lived there. And it doubled in price really quickly. Where I am now is that kind of place. I think it's going to, like Playa del Rey, I think will double in price in kind of a short period of time. And other areas are way over indexed. So, and things aren't square. So it's not like, oh, that's what that is, like you can do in Miami or New York. So if you're smart, there's definitely always opportunities to make an intelligent and purchase and buy something that other people don't see or other people just aren't looking at. It's not like the stock market where something is trading and it'll sell at a certain price. It's just not like that here. So there's definitely opportunities.
I'm looking for stale bread. That's what I'm looking for.
If I come to you and I want a deal, there are deals to be had, even in this hot, frothy market. There are deals to be had, and both of you know of secret stuff because you're in the market every day and you just know what's coming next, right?
Well, Tishreen just made a good point, and it reminds me, and I've when I was single, like 20 years ago, I went on online dating, very beginning. And I remember going on and I learned a lot about marketing. First of all, I changed my profile. I was too sarcastic. I didn't have the right pictures, and I changed that around. And all of a sudden it started working really well. I also noticed, when a girl comes out like day one, she has 200 people looking at her. And I figured out that same girl 6 months from now is at the bottom of where you look at the time. Same girl, but she's not getting 200 phone calls. And it's just a much better person to pursue. And it's just like the MLS. So the person that's been on the market for a year and has reduced their price, same house, they just did a poor job marketing their property, and maybe their expectations were too high. And now that person who was cocky at the beginning now needs to sell their house, and you're there with a check, get a great deal. The house that just comes on the market's rarely the good deal.
Right.
Yeah. You got to revive it and refresh it. So yeah, I'm not looking for stale bread.
I'm looking for year-old bread.
How much off-market business do you guys do?
Most of it.
there is a lot of, we do a lot of it, but it's changing. It's a little harder than it used to be with the NAR rules. Do you guys abide by that? I think you have,
Yeah.
there's ways around it. It's the lamest law in history. It's just like, they're trying to create equality by creating less equality. It makes no sense. But in general, like 20-25% of some big deals, have sold off market. I think it's changing a little bit now, and more things are selling on market, but historically it's been a lot.
Was there discussion about doing that with the Playboy Mansion because of its notoriety?
Yeah, I mean, if we didn't have it on the market first, we didn't have Chartwell on the market for the first year. It didn't matter. I mean, everyone knew about it, but we didn't put it on for a year. So yeah, but now we technically are not allowed to even do it, or it's so limited. You can't, if you're from a different office, you can't have that discussion. And you have to literally break the rules.
Same rules we have over here. I mean, our job is difficult enough. Why do they want to make it even more difficult for us?
Yeah, it was a national decision, and it should be a local decision, because maybe that makes sense somewhere. It just doesn't make sense in Los Angeles.
I got
Miami.
it because I told about a property within BHS, within my own same company, but it was another type of office. You have to do it within your same office, not even same company.
It's interesting is that it depends on areas and MLSs and boards of realtors, because everyone is defining it differently. It's just a shit show.
Yeah, Robert, what about you in New York? Is it off market that you're mostly dealing with, or?
There's off market, but it's on the, I would say it's 4 or 5% of transactions. The higher
That's a
end,
lot.
definitely on the high end, it's a lot.
Like the Star Island one was an off market. I brought both buyer and the seller, an off market. And before that, I did another off market. Most of my deals end up being off market.
In general, I don't think it's a good idea. Where I think it works best is at the beginning, when you're just not quite ready to put it on the market for a myriad of reasons, and you start marketing it. That's good. Creates a little bit of somebody who maybe has lost out can get in on something early, and they'll write a big, a nice offer. But in general, it's hard to market something and keep it a secret at the same time.
Yeah, very.
Well, I think this has been a fabulous hour. We've gone a little long. It's 5:14. Thank you both. I learned a whole lot about Miami and LA. Do you have any parting words of wisdom? I mean, we've gotten a great hour of wisdom, but do you have any advice for us agents who are just trying to aspiring to our first, say, $14 million sale? Got any advice for us?
I would say direction. Have every day a direction, and persistency and faith. I mean, those are the three things that I would say is the ingredient.
Yeah, I would focus on what you have control over and what you can do, especially during COVID and limitations, and just and don't pay attention to what you have no control over. One thing I always do is, before I go to bed at night and when I wake up in the morning, I'm half conscious. It's like, what listing can I get today or move forward to getting, and what sale can I get or move forward to getting, or what escrow I can move forward to closing. And I have, I always have like 4 or 5 things I want to accomplish that day. And if I did that, it would be epic. And that really helps define me. This is what I want to accomplish today. I have others, but those are the big ones.
Great.
John, you know what would be the number one thing I would advise agents that want to get into the luxury market or into their niche is learning how to say no. And that was one of the hardest parts when I first started 18 years ago, that I wanted to just do luxury waterfront. And I even told myself, even if I just sell one $8 million home, it's equivalent than selling all the little other ones. And when anyone would come to me and say, I'm looking for a $500,000 property, even $1 million, I would say, no, I have the perfect person for you. And that's how I created a reputation and a brand and a name for myself. So The same thing with area. Be an expert in an area. Eat, breathe it, hang out there. Walk the area. If you have a doggy, walk the area. It doesn't matter if you don't have the money to buy one of those homes. They don't know the difference. You're a human being. You have feelings. Just walk around the area and talk to people. Talk to the landscapers. Don't take anyone for granted. You never know where you're going to get that lead. The maid
That's for sure.
lead. So that would be my advice to young agents.
I love
So
that.
also get a good skincare regime going. We can be in this business for a long time. So
Skincare?
really, skincare, yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
especially for them who are there in the sun all the time.
All right. Next week, we have two agents, top agents from New York City. I think we have Louise Phelps Forbes, and we also have Matt Cohen.
I believe so.
And I hope that Tishreen and Gary will join us maybe next week and make that discussion even more interesting. I mean, how cool would that be? A couple of New York top agents, and you guys are invited back. So I hope you'll come.
It could be like a tag team grudge match.
Oh yeah. I love it. This is
Gary,
great.
it was so great meeting you. Congratulations on your sale. That's a big deal. I applaud you.
Thank you. I always see Florida. It looks like fun. I'd like to be there.
Well, we're gonna definitely meet each other because I was born in California and I go to California a lot. I just haven't traveled there lately, so we'll definitely make it happen. You show me yours, I'll show you mine.
Nice meeting everybody.
Bye.
Guys,
Bye-bye.
thank you so much. Gary, Tishreen, take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Goodbye.